Well, Justin, what else is happening in the world?
Well, Geoff, how do you feel about the television show Yellowjackets?
Well, that's a great question, because I'm not sure what to feel. Actually, that's not true. I know how to feel.
You're never at a loss for feeling, that's for sure. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Justin.
And I'm just doing my best. Geoff.
And welcome to Vance.
Justin, the energy's off.
So is the Amazon Web Services servers.
And I'll tell you what, it's fucking everything up badly. Very big league.
Did you know how fragile our global ecosystem for infrastructure is? Did you know about this?
It's almost like a few companies shouldn't control everything.
Kind of wild concept. We've never touched on that before.
Yeah. Things continue to deteriorate. And I'm not just talking about my body.
But we're here. We're doing our best. We're ready for another fresh episode of Bants.
Fresh. I love it. We're certified fresh.
Yeah.
What's been going on? Tell me something good.
Brandy and I had a wedding last weekend. Shout out Tori and Nick.
Love them.
You remember Tori from our wedding.
Good couple. Beautiful couple.
Beautiful couple. Beautiful wedding. We had an amazing time. We're back now. Luckily, it was a local wedding right over in Annapolis.
Is there a big Greek population there?
I don't know. Gotta be honest. I mostly spent my time in the hotel and at the wedding.
Wow, you're fun.
Did a lot of reading.
Wow, the fun continues.
We have talked about this. You remember when Hannah asked, like, what should I do at a wedding with people who I don't really know that many people who are there?
Yeah, and you were like, go meet people.
I was like, you can go meet people, and then if it doesn't work out or you don't have the opportunity to, it's a great time to just chill and have some time away. And Brandy was doing a lot of bridesmaids duties for many, many hours, and I was like, okay, do I, A, explore Annapolis, or B, hang out in bed and finish The Name of the Rose? And I was like, you know what? I've been trying to finish this book for months. Let's finish it.
What about Kiss from a Rose by Seal? Good song.
Related in terms of the name. Unrelated in terms of everything else, I think.
Yeah.
But a good song.
You know what? I've always wondered this. With Seal, does he have like some kind of like, are they tribal markings, or does he have like a birthmark, or maybe like some kind of like scarring from an injury of a kind? You know? I've always wondered that about him.
I always assumed it was just like acne scars. They kind of look like pockmarks on his cheek, which are common locations for acne, but I don't know. I don't know 100%.
It could be. Neither do I.
Yeah, so it turns out the scarring on Seal's face is because of a condition called discoid lupus erythematosus, which does leave scars. He's been in remission for a while, but the scars remain. So let's get back to the show. Let's, just in case, so just to make sure we're not offending anyone, Editor Justin may come in there depending on what the real answer is.
Sounds like a plan.
We're trying our best. So Geoff, before we get into more trouble, why don't we get into some hot topics? And Geoff, this is one that I think you might be an expert in because this features one of your What's Goods from an episode past and one of our favorite people of all time, Charli XCX, and one of your favorite shows, Saturday Night Live.
Is it time for Charli Watch?
Charli Watch is active.
Charli Watch.
Explain this one to me, Geoff. Explain to me how these three things link up.
So, Role Model, who was one of my What's Goods, was a musical guest on Saturday Night Live 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, he does that fun thing where he always brings out a celebrity to act as Sally in his performance of the song Sally. And he had Charli XCX come on stage. She made a surprise appearance on the episode.
Which was very nice, yeah.
It was very cute.
Great to see. She came out wearing a Kansas City t-shirt, which some people interpreted to be some kind of shot at Taylor Swift, given that Travis Kelce plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. What do you think about that?
Well, it's Max's Kansas City, and it's a bar. That's where she likes to go when she's there. So I think people are making a mountain out of a molehill. And honestly, Charli's just too cool to get down in the mud and start up with Miss Swift. This is baloney.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that's a little bit of an overinterpretation. It is cool because this is not the first Sally cameo. Like, I was not familiar with this phenomenon that he brought on other celebrities.
What are you talking about? I told you about Hilary Duff.
Tell me more about it. So Hilary Duff was a Sally at a previous performance?
Hilary Duff was a Sally. There have been other Sallys. I can't think of them all, Justin. I don't have all the answers. Everyone can go and look it up. It's cute. He always has somebody fun. But yeah, Hilary Duff did one a couple weeks ago at Austin City Limits, I think.
Kicking off her new, or
her,
I guess
her
rekindled music career.
Music.
Yeah.
From the mind of Hilary Duff.
I am so curious to hear what that music is going to sound like. I hope she goes full, like, late career Cher with it, like goes dance club energy. That
would be so fun.
I would love to hear that.
I'm predicting hyperpop.
That could be bad.
I think it'd be fun.
Praying for her.
Wait, Justin, what about aquatic pop? Have you heard about this lately?
No, I don't know. Sounds like one of those fake Spotify genres that they make a playlist around, but tell me more.
No, it's a real thing. It's called like aquatic pop, and it's like, it just sounds aquatic. I don't really know how to describe it otherwise. Like, they're okay.
Like Super Mario 64?
A little bit.
Dire Docks?
A little bit Dire Docks energy. Like, lots of like, okay, do you remember those Yamaha keyboards that people had when they were kids that had like the preset tunes on it?
Oh, so you're talking pure moods.
I'm not exactly, but also not that far off from it. Like, it's a romantic sort of ethereal sound, and it uses like, okay, the reason I brought up the Yamaha keyboards is because there was always like, they had like the lead noises on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The synthesizer noises, lead. And then there's one called crystal, and there's usually several different crystals. It makes that same kind of echoey, vibration-y kind of melodic noise. Like, aquatic pop has a lot of those sort of sounds in it.
Interesting.
It's very like atmospheric, and like, it sounds like, okay, do you remember when we went to the aquarium when we were younger and it would have music in the background?
Yeah. Very like Y2K revival.
It literally was like aquatic aquarium sounding music.
Right.
I don't know how to describe it other than that, but it's great. And I could see Hillary doing that because that's trending right now.
I'll put a clip in if I can find a song.
Yeah,
an example.
I'll send you someone from TikTok. Gotta link the talk. What's
up, y'all? Geoff did send me a couple of TikTok links to music that I would describe as like melodic or liquid UK garage or drum and bass. And here's an example. It's called Windows 98 by Gregory Dillon. We'll put a link to this song on SoundCloud in the show notes.
Well, Justin, what else is happening in the world?
Well, Geoff, how do you feel about the television show Yellowjackets?
Well, that's a great question because I'm not sure what to feel. Actually, that's not true. I know how to feel.
You're never at a loss for feeling, that's for sure.
It was like a show I was very excited by the premise and the trailer for the first season, and I thought that the first season was largely good. I think I described it once on the podcast as a B show. Like, I'm not edging to watch it for the next episode, but I'm like, all right, let's see what's going on here, and like, I might have 2 or 3 back episodes to watch. So I really enjoyed the first season. The second season I enjoyed less, and it's just been downhill from there. There's been a lot of focus on the current day. It was dragging for a while. I have not watched the most recent season, which I think was season 3. Yeah, it just like quickly fell off for me. Loved first season, then second season I watched the first 2 episodes and kind of stopped. But what about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think that, well, Brandy and I were both big fans of the show. So this is like one of our together watching shows. And for that reason, we've stuck with it. And we recently finished watching season 3, which is easily the worst season. I was a bit of a defender of season 2. I thought it was still pretty good despite some of the criticisms. But season 3 was really like a falling off of a cliff moment.
That's tough.
For me, at least. And for Brandy, I think she agrees with me on that.
What was it about it for you that made it like really just go downhill fast?
I'm a big Lost defender as well, and I think that it had the Lost problem of a show that should have been pretty self-contained and should have had a set endpoint that people were looking at. And instead of going directly at that endpoint, keeping the characters' overall arcs in mind, it started kind of just spinning out and having characters go on these like weird directions.
Like side quests?
Yeah. And many of the main characters, without getting into spoilers, just make like some really bizarre and crazy turns in the plot. There's some unexpected deaths that seem to have come from certain actors not wanting to be a part of the show anymore.
Damn.
So there's a lot of complicated factors. The reason I bring up Yellowjackets today is because it was recently announced that season 4, the next season, will be its last season. So this is like, to me, a positive development.
Yeah.
Because at least they can write a good season as a closer.
Do you think that'll make it good?
I think it can. I mean, I think that this is similar to what happened with Lost, where I think people have differing opinions on Lost, but in my opinion, season 3, easily the worst season in terms of batting average because they were spinning their wheels. And then once they kind of had this creative, like leadership level decision to say, listen, we're going to end in 3 seasons. We got to wrap it up. Mm-hmm. After that, it became a lot more focused and a lot better of a show. And it really closed in on what made it a great show to begin with, which was the characters. And I hope that this will do the same thing for Yellowjackets, and not that it's just like, okay, clearly this is going downhill. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah. I don't know if I have that much faith in it, because I feel like in a short time, like even the end of season 1, I was kind of like, okay, this whole thing was a little bit of like a prelude, you know?
Yeah.
It felt like that was gearing us up for something, and we never really got to the something. So I was like, season 2 is going to be action-packed. And it still felt like so many episodes were filler. And then they were going more into like the modern timeline, as opposed to like what I think people were interested in, which was like, how did these young girls make it out of the forest alive?
Yeah.
And I just feel like they didn't spend a lot of time on that. And I agree, all the weird shit that started happening happened like in the adult timeline. And so I'm like, how are you going to now shift the focus of the show back from like the modern timeline to the past?
Totally agree.
And also wrap up the modern stuff in a way that makes sense. It doesn't feel rushed because you have 10 episodes to do it. I just don't have faith.
Yeah, I don't know that I have faith, but I will finish watching it because I'm already 3/4 of the way through it.
Yeah,
and
you got
I'm
it.
committed, you know? I got to finish it off. And I love Melanie Linsky. Well, I'll be watching season 4, and I will update on the pod. We will not be doing an episode. I don't think I could put Geoff through that.
Geoff would simply refuse.
How about a show that I think we're both excited for?
Oh, yes. I can't wait for this.
So this is a show that was originally advertised, or at least there were some press releases about this show that referred to it as the Untitled Rachel Sennott Project.
Yeah.
That show now has a name. It's called I Love LA, and a trailer has been released from HBO. This show looks pretty sick, Geoff. What do you think? Have you seen the trailer?
I have not seen the trailer. I didn't even know one came out yet, but I just watched, I love Caleb Heron, comedian, and he has a great podcast that I love on the HeadGum Network called So True, and I'm an avid listener. And Rachel Sennott was his guest like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and their episode was very funny. She talked a lot about how she's a really bad driver, and he was like, how bad are you? And she's like, I get in a lot of accidents. And she's like, how many accidents have you been in? And he was like, he's like fender benders, or like I bumped somebody's car in the parking lot. And she's like, all. And he was like 3. And she was like, this year? And he said, no, like probably like 3 ever. And she was like, oh. And he was like, why? How many have you had? She revealed she gets into an accident about once a quarter.
Once a quarter?
Once a quarter. So like 4 times a year, this girl is getting into a car accident of some kind.
Insurance companies hate to see her coming.
I hate to see Rachel Sennott come. That's why she needs this show, Justin. She's got to pay these high premiums. They want to show her otherwise.
She's struggling. Rachel Sennott needs your money. Let's start a GoFundMe, actually.
I'm so excited, though, because she was talking a lot about the show, and it sounds like there's all kinds of really fun cameos from her friends on the show, including, sounds like, Charli and Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, okay, Rachel Sennott, I feel like we've been saying this for, at this point, years, but she is one of the upcoming voices in comedy for me. I think that Bottoms was like one of the funniest movies I've seen in recent memory that has like real cutting edge, like envelope pushing energy. She's excellent in everything that she's a part of. And it's cool to see her like in a creative role here, similar to like Lena Dunham was put in with Girls on HBO.
Yeah.
And the trailer really gives off Girls energy in that it's about a group of like 20-something, maybe 30-something women who are living, although swapped the city from New York to LA.
Yeah.
I mean, coming of age stuff is always pretty great. It also has a really great cast, like regular cast. So Odessa Azion, who is a actor that probably people don't recognize her name, but I think she's about to be a huge star. She's about to be in this show. She's also about to star in Marty Supreme, which is the Timothée Chalamet starring film that's coming out this holiday season.
Is that the one about the ping pong player?
That's exactly right. Lots of great buzz around that movie. Charli XCX reviewed it on Letterboxd, gave it 5 stars.
That's exciting. I love the name Odessa. It reminds me of the South, though.
That's true.
Odessa. I do declare, Odessa.
She has a very striking look. She has like a model-esque appearance. She has like these very, very light blue eyes and like dark, dark hair, which is a unique look for sure.
Okay, so white girl.
It also stars Jordan Firstman, who people probably know from his COVID Instagram videos that he made, his reels.
Yeah,
he
love Jordan Firstman.
Is hilarious and needs to be in more things, so I'm glad to see him there.
He's also in the English Teacher FX show that I've enjoyed.
Yeah, and you still need to watch that. That was your What's Good a while ago now.
Yeah.
And then it also stars Josh Hutcherson, who famously starred in The Hunger Games as Peeta.
That is exciting. I haven't seen him in things.
He plays Rachel Sennett's character's boyfriend, I believe, in the show.
Oh, that's good casting.
Yeah.
I could really see that.
I'm extremely excited for this show. It looks hilarious. Rachel Sennott her batting average is 1,000. Like, she really can't do wrong. So I'm super excited to watch it. It's coming out November 2nd.
Okay, great. I am excited for that. And Rachel Sennott was also talking quite a bit about how she was like put in the show running position, because HBO is basically like, cool, you can have a show. Great. We love it.
Yeah, like, do whatever you want, basically.
She was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And she's like, all the time, she's like, I would just like be like relying on my coworkers to like show me the ropes and tell me what I need to do. And she's like, and I was doing that annoying thing of like, the moment I learned a term, I would just like employ it in language like too often. And so she's like, yeah, so they were like telling us about like the production value. And she's like, so I was like, well, what's the production value of this? Or let's not lose sight of the production value. She's like, I would say it like 20 times a day. And everyone's like, okay, we get it. You just learned a new word.
Also, LA, listen, I have been known to talk some shit about films and TV shows that are set in LA because like Hollywood folks tend to like Hollywood stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that tends to inflate like the critical reception of certain projects.
100%. La La Land.
Right. For example, that's a classic example. But I think that in this particular moment, I wonder if this is going to be a part of the show. But like, I feel like I've heard a lot about LA becoming a little bit of a dead industry town because so much production of film and TV is moving outside of LA, and I wonder how much of the show is going to be about that kind of like broken American dream side of things.
Yeah, that is interesting. Because a lot of stuff does film in either like Toronto or the Canadian, suburbs of Toronto or in Atlanta.
Yeah, Georgia. Because of the tax breaks, yeah.
Connecticut had an opportunity here because there was like a big bill like 10 years ago to like extend like our filming tax breaks to like make it more of a destination. Because we do have like a very picturesque and geographically varied area here, where like people would love to film stuff, and then the state voted no because they were like, we don't want it to lose a small town charm. Always shooting ourselves in the foot, us nutmeg folk.
Actually, I think it's in the state's constitution, must be a drive-through state. Nothing else.
I think it says land of steady habits, but I would not be surprised if that was a new addition. And that's tough. But speaking of new additions,
we have one more TV show to talk about in our Hot Topics, which is a new Westeros TV show, Geoff. It's called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
Yes. I don't know about this.
Tell me why.
I don't think it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like very tonally different than the rest of the Game of Thrones world, the Westerosi world. So I'm not sure about that, but it's coming out in January.
That's right.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I've read the novellas that this series is based on. There are 3 novellas that have been released, written by George R.R. Martin, of course. All 3 of them are pretty fun stories. They're pretty low stakes. There's no dragons. It's pretty much a straight up medieval fantasy story.
Yeah.
Which maybe you hate that, but I'm a fan of like some straight up historical fiction type stuff, and it's in the fictional world of Game of Thrones, which is always a plus for me. Format wise is an interesting one because the episodes are only half an hour long and there's only 6 of them. So this is like a much cheaper production than House of the Dragon.
When is that coming back?
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. It takes like 2 years to produce one season of that show. This show, they should be able to bang out much faster. It's almost like a procedural version of a Game of Thrones, which I think is like an interesting model that hasn't really been done before. And I'm curious to see how it turns out. I do think it's difficult to thread the needle because I think a lot of people come to Game of Thrones related content for like epic battles and like dragons and magic. And this has very little of that. So I'm wondering if the audience will come for this show, and if they do, if they'll be disappointed.
I agree completely. That's what I mean. It's like, I think it's too different tonally from the rest of the world. I don't think it's going to draw the same audience. Maybe it'll be a runaway hit. Who knows? Maybe it could be like the Andor.
It could be. I feel like it's not trying to be serious, though. That's the thing. Like, I feel like Andor is such a success because it is a serious spin-off, quote unquote, of Star Wars, right? And it's like tackling these heavy issues. Night of the Seven Kingdoms is more the opposite.
But in a similar vein, like I think that Star Wars was like a little bit campy and like action movie, not like very dramatically heavy.
Yeah.
And so like this, in that way, I'm saying there's like a parallel because this is like a different tone, just like Andor is a different tone than Star Wars movies.
Yeah, I could see that. And also, I'm sure that WB leadership wants Westeros and the Game of Thrones franchise to be like a Star Wars-esque franchise where they can do all kinds of tones within the world. So it'll be an interesting experiment in that way to see if it can stand up to that type of flexibility.
Duncan Egg from the mind of John Krasinski in Westeros.
How John Krasinski?
I don't know.
You're obsessed with this man.
I'm not obsessed with John Krasinski. I'm obsessed with him having like a production company whose like tagline that they use to introduce his works is from the mind of John Krasinski. Because it's insane. It's so like narcissistic.
I mean, I guess, you know, auteurs have to start somewhere, right? Like, when did people start calling things from the mind of Stanley Kubrick or like from the brain of the guy who made Get Out? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you got to start saying it at some point.
I don't know. I just don't know that. Maybe I just don't think that John Krasinski's work warrants that sort of iconic introduction.
Okay. I think it's also mostly advertising. I agree with you that I don't think the advertising using that line is very effective.
It just makes me roll my eyes.
Yeah, because John Krasinski, as we'll talk about later, his role, I think that everybody knows him from, is from a TV network sitcom. You know, it's not like the most serious thing. Although it's wild how fast Jordan Peele switched from Comedy Central comedian to like very serious filmmaker. Yeah,
he was so good. Damn.
Speaking of damn.
Yeah.
We have a couple of deaths that recently happened that I think we should
so many deaths.
Comment on. Yeah. First,
there's a lot of them happening.
Let's talk about Diane Keaton.
I was very sad about Diane Keaton dying because I love her and she's like everyone's kooky aunt.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, Diane, we know each other personally, no. Miss Keaton. Ms. Keaton. She's older than I thought she was when the reports of her death came through, and I believe she was 79 when she passed.
Correct.
I always assumed she was much younger because in every public appearance she made, she was so effusive and just like so flamboyant in everything that she did.
Yeah, flamboyant's perfect word to describe her.
And she was clearly like on top of things mentally.
Yeah.
And that makes it all the more sad that she passed. And obviously she's like a film icon.
Yeah, I watched a movie that I think it was her last like released at least film role. She was in Summer Camp, which came out in 2024. It was a small role, but she was very funny in it. Yeah, I mean, Annie Hall, never seen it to be honest. Have you?
I haven't. By the time I was like aware of Woody Allen, he had already been canceled. So I was like, do I want to be that guy? Probably not.
That's tough.
Yeah.
She did win an Oscar for that. But I know her mostly from, say it with me, The First Wives Club.
I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say Something's Gotta Give. That's not your thing?
I mean, sure. That was not my first.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I know her the best from.
I believe that Something's Gotta Give was almost 10 years after The First Wives Club.
Yeah.
The First Wives Club was like one of the first like PG-13 movies I ever watched. I was probably like 7 or 8, and it was on Showtime, I think, or HBO. And I used to do this thing when I was little, which is I would like wake up very early, and I used to like go down from my bedroom in the morning, and it would be like 5 o'clock or 5:30, and I would watch The Brady Bunch and I Love Lucy because they were on TV Land. After that was done, I would either watch infomercials or if there was a movie that was on HBO, like West, you know, because they were like playing like the stuff from the West Coast, I would watch. And so I saw Bette Midler, who I knew from Hocus Pocus, was on First Wives Club. So I was watching that movie.
You are so cultured. You were watching HBO West as a child instead of Saturday morning cartoons.
Justin, I'm very cultured. Absolutely.
I mean, don't I know it? That's why we host a podcast together, right?
That's why we do it. Yeah, that's a great film, though. Have you ever seen it?
No, I've never seen it.
I can't believe this. You call yourself a gay guy?
Do I?
Well, no. But you need to watch this film. It's good.
We'll add it to our list of rewind topics for sure.
It's Goldie Hawn.
Oh, an icon.
Iconic.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. Bette Midler. Diane Keaton. Sarah Jessica Parker.
Oh.
It's an excellent movie, very funny. And then they had the iconic "You Don't Know Me" at the end of the movie. You must have seen clips of this.
Maybe.
The three of them wearing like various versions of white suits and dancing to that song and singing it.
This is just how I imagine Diane Keaton in like all circumstances mentally, like wearing a white suit, dancing. That's just her look, you know?
Oh my God, the backwards tuxedo thing.
Wearing a hat, probably.
Oh, she loves hats and big chunky jewelry and glasses.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, loved.
Rest in peace.
Damn.
Rest in peace to
Miss Diane Keaton.
Yeah. We also have to mention D'Angelo, who passed recently at the age of 51, I believe, which is so young. So young. And this guy was a real legend of music. I think a real pioneer of the neo-soul genre. Renaissance man.
Yeah. He had that album Voodoo.
One of the best albums of all time. It's one of my brother's favorite albums.
Really?
He's talked to me about it a lot. He idolizes D'Angelo, so...
Oh my God. Sorry, Jake.
It's a tough one. This is a tough one.
And sorry, D'Angelo. So he passed away at 51. Cancer?
I don't know that it's been reported what the cause of death was. Yeah.
That's too bad. 51's very young.
Very
I'm
young.
not so far from 51 myself.
You're far from 51.
Oh, yeah. It says he died falling in battle with cancer.
Oh, wow. That's horrible. Pancreatic cancer. That is
no.
That's a very difficult diagnosis.
I mean, yeah, there's like nothing to do about that one.
Horrible.
How do we, Justin, do we get our pancreas checked? Is that a thing?
Yeah, just go to your primary care physician. That's all I can say. That's the way to go. Get a primary care physician.
Everyone has to have one of those.
Yeah.
Even in these dark times.
You gotta. Well, Geoff, why don't we take a quick break and we'll come right back to talk about a TV show that we both watched.
We did, and I've got thoughts.
We'll be right back.
And we're back.
And we're so back, Geoff. And we're here today to talk about a television show. This might be our longest callback yet on the pod, Geoff, because our third ever episode was about the show The Office. Mm-hmm. Do you recall this?
Of course.
We recorded that episode because there was news that had recently broke that a spin-off / sequel of The Office, now we know is called The Paper, had just been announced. And today we're here to talk about The Paper.
The Paper.
So, Geoff, this is, as I mentioned, a spinoff of the legendary NBC mockumentary The Office. You can watch it on Peacock if you haven't already. It's created by Greg Daniels, who was a creator of The Office, the US version, and Michael Coman, who was a writer on Late Night with Conan O'Brien and a co-creator of Nathan For You, which is a show that we've talked about many times on the pod before.
And what's Nathan's last name?
Fielder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I saw Conan and then I was like, is his last name Cohen?
No, that would have been a real coincidence.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. Okay, well, let's talk about The Paper.
Yeah, let's talk about it. This show stars Domhnall Gleeson, who is probably best known at this point for being in Star Wars and the A24 film Ex Machina, and Sabrina Impacciatore, who is definitely best known for season 2 of The White Lotus, the Italian season.
Love that.
And the general setup of the show, like The Office, there's not much of a setup, although there is one. It follows the staff of fictional publication The Toledo Truth Teller, a local Ohio newspaper, as Ned, played by Domhnall Gleeson, takes control as the new editor-in-chief. And I do think it's important for context that this show has already been renewed for a second season, and it was renewed before the first season even premiered. So, for whatever reason, Peacock has a lot of faith behind this show.
I think they have a lot of faith because The Office was such a huge juggernaut that like continues to feed NBC a ton of money.
Yeah, totally agree.
From the mind of John Krasinski, it's The Paper.
This show is not from the mind of John Krasinski, just for the record. It is from the mind of
could have been
Greg Daniels, as I mentioned earlier.
Well,
Geoff, it's been over a year since we talked about The Office, so briefly, did you like that older show? And what were your expectations going into The Paper?
I liked lots of parts of The Office, and I was hoping that The Paper would be like the parts of The Office I like, which specifically are like seasons 3, 4, and 5.
Mm-hmm.
And what about you? What were your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I also really like The Office. It had some high points and some low points. I think the last like 2 or 3 seasons of The Office were not as great. It ended on a solid note, but once Steve Carell left, I think it was really spinning its wheels in a way that was doomed. not creatively satisfying. And in terms of The Paper, on that episode that I talked about, I was very skeptical because this seemed like an IP grab, even though many of the creatives involved with The Office were also involved with this new show. So my expectations were pretty low, I'm not going to lie. And Geoff, how did your expectations play out when you actually watched this show?
Well, I remember texting you because I watched the first 2 episodes and I was like, wow, this is pretty good. And it was like, kind of similar in tone to The Office. It was shot in that same like mockumentary. It's a workplace comedy. It even has like at least one of the same people who's like featured in the show, Oscar Nunez. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I see the through line. They definitely captured the ethos of The Office. What were your initial thoughts having watched it?
The show, The Paper, is not boundary pushing. It's not going to blow anybody's mind.
Yeah.
That being said, I have a lot of thoughts about it in terms of the television ecosystem as it stands today in 2025. Because a lot of, like what you said, a lot of the whole vibe and energy of the show is basically modernizing The Office. And there's an important question, which is like, could The Office exist in this television landscape?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's still an open question. Did I enjoy my time with the show? 100%. But I am not 100% sure that it's going to be successful in the long term, like in future seasons or commercially, right? So I'd love to talk to you more about that for sure. But generally, I like the show. If you like The Office, you will like the show. I feel pretty confident saying that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess like broadly, I think like that this was good. There were some parts of it that I think were more successful than others. It's definitely not boundary pushing. It's definitely kind of got like the standard. These are the main characters. These are the people who are supporting characters. And there's a love interest that's pretty central to the story. I thought it was like overall pretty funny, but I didn't think it was as funny as The Office is. It certainly didn't have as much of like the cringe humor that I think made The Office polarizing, but also very successful and drew a lot of eyeballs to it. I think they had a big job to do in this first season, which was like prove that this like format isn't dead and also live up to the hype of The Office, which, is a tall order.
Yeah, it might be interesting to talk about how this differs from The Office, right? Because I think, people are still binging The Office today on Peacock. And how is this different from just doing The Office again? I think it's a couple of different factors. I think one, the Michael Scott character, which is so central to The Office, right? In The Office, he's like a Gen X middle manager who was promoted until he started failing, right? And he was a good salesman, but a bad manager.
Yeah.
The character that is the most obvious parallel to Michael Scott in The Paper is Ned, who is played by Domhnall Gleeson. This guy is an elder millennial, and he's not a complete failure. He's not like a complete shit show. Instead, he is somebody who is like very naively, kind of disarmingly into the idea of journalism.
Yeah, he's like a glass half full kind of guy.
Right. It felt like they either thought maybe a Michael Scott character would not be palatable in 2025, or they thought, let's make this show directly like laser targeted at elder millennials who are now entering positions of leadership and now finding themselves in the uncomfortable position of like, oh shit, am I Michael Scott? Because like I think a lot of Ned's conflicts in the show are basically him being like, oh, I don't want people to think that I'm like sexist, or I don't want people to think that I got Me Too'd, or I don't want people to think ... right?
Yeah.
And it's a very millennial conflict that I think personally I found myself interrogating, my own anxieties about that. And I'm like, at first I was offended. I was like, whoa, do they even know if this guy is like a good guy or not? And then I was like, you know what? I guess I have had some of these thoughts, and he's kind of just like a caricature of that millennial impulse to try to be like politically correct at all times.
Yeah.
So I think that was an interesting twist. And I think that the millennialization, or at least targeting the millennials who were so obsessed with The Office with this show, I think was a good move. And there's a lot of different examples of that.
I think that Ned is like, immediately like likable, but also kind of like, yeah, I wouldn't want to work for this guy because he seems like a little in over his head and like not decisive enough to be a leader, but he at least is likable and you can understand the appeal. The person in the show that I have like a big issue with is Esmeralda, played by
Interesting.
Sabrina Impacciatore, because I think that she's not a likable character at all.
100%. Yeah.
There were things that I liked about the, foils to like Michael Scott, who at times I think was Dwight and at times was Jim, that were endearing, and I feel like I got to know who they were, so that made me like this show more. And I don't know that I'm feeling that way yet with these two characters.
Yeah, Esmeralda is clearly the Dwight stand-in here, right? Like, she's kind of like the odd man out, so to speak. Like, she's the one that's so over the top in her character that her comedy is so slapstick and insane compared to the other characters, right? Everybody else is kind of a straight man responding to her,
Yes.
whatever, her craziness. And I think for me, it honestly usually worked. Sabrina Impacciatore is so funny to me. Like, she just has such a funny persona, effortlessly throwing out lines. Her physical comedy is incredible. There's a great catfishing episode in the middle of the season where she just like planks on a couch at some point and like two other characters are trying to talk to her, but she's like so overcome with her embarrassment that she like just sits there on the couch. I think she's hilarious. But I do think, and this is the second thing that I think is different about The Paper compared to The Office, is that she represents the like reality TV clickbaitification of media.
Yeah.
Because when Ned comes in to try to save the truth teller, she's essentially the acting editor-in-chief.
Right.
And she has turned The Paper into a shell of its former self. Instead of being about journalism and news, it's mostly just about like clickbait. And she runs a social media arm.
Advertorials and all the things that like, media companies now have to have in order to keep the revenue coming in and keep the paper operable. Since people are not purchasing their media like they were when journalism was a hot career.
Yeah. And like in The Office, nobody was like, we need to rejuvenate the paper industry. Like, it was always meaningless. It was always kind of like a cynical, almost nihilistic view of that particular workplace.
Yeah.
And I think there's a big shift in The Paper, and this is the second thing that I was talking about that is different, is that there is like a intentional push to like, we need to keep journalism alive.
Yeah.
And in that vein, it feels very connected to something like Parks and Rec, which has like a very optimistic
I was going to say that. And I think that this show, I'll be able to say like for sure that it's good if they're able to achieve this like Obamacore, I guess I'll call it, manifesto of like, we can band together and make big things happen. Because I don't know if it's just like the AWS outage today that's affecting a lot of things and everything just happening in the world right now, but I'm like not feeling any kind of hope or change. I'm firmly like in the nihilistic camp these days.
Yeah.
And so like if they're able to like inspire people by achieving real change through the show that's like realistic and people can see parallels in like their real lives, I would be very impressed and be like, wow, this is actually a really well done show.
Yeah, and that's another, I guess it's more of a question that I have about the show. I'm going to be talking about the Pitt later in this episode. I know that medical professionals love the Pitt. They're like, this portrays so much about my job that has not been portrayed in the past about, what it's like. In this show, we have a bunch of amateur reporters who are working for a first-time editor-in-chief that has no journalism experience. And I wonder how actual journalists feel about this show. Because on one hand, it does portray a lot of the realities of like how you keep a paper in business these days, right? Like you have to have like a Wirecutter-esque like product forward model in certain places. You have to think about advertisements, etc. But on the other hand, it's kind of like all these random idiots in Toledo can just like become journalists, and like a lot of the journalistic practices that they take are questionable for comedic effect in the episodes, right?
Yeah.
So I would be curious to know what actual journalists think about it. But from me, somebody who's not a journalist, I found it pretty even-keeled in its portrayal of journalism. And I don't think it was intentionally trying to be like, this is how journalism happens. It was more like, look at these idiots, in the vein of like The Office, when they were increasingly going through crazy hijinks. So in terms of what made The Office such a success, I think a big part of it was the characters and how we came to love them over a long span of time over the show's run, right? I think we all think about Jim and Pam's relationship. We think about Michael and Holly's relationship. How did the characters, the main characters that we've already talked about, and the more minor characters, how did those characters come off to you in the show?
I think that Mayor Pretty, who is the former army soldier, is like the only bona fide journalist of this group of people.
That's right.
In the show. And I think that she is in many ways like a surrogate for the audience.
She's a Jim.
She is often like kind of breaking the fourth wall, not as much as Jim did, but like with little like glances at the camera to kind of be like, hey, just like checking in to make sure that I'm not going crazy here and these people are fools.
Right.
I don't know. Did
you like her?
I don't know. Well, the thing is that like I just didn't like this show that much. So it's like hard for me to like talk a lot about it because I also didn't like actively like dislike it. But it just like wasn't impressive to me in any way.
Okay, so I know I said that we were going to talk about the characters, but I think this is a more interesting line of discussion here, right? So
yeah,
when you say that you didn't dislike it, you didn't love it, this is, I think, a pitfall of the modern TV landscape, where a lot of the premier comedies are things like Hacks, like The Bear, like The Studio.
The Bear, not comedy.
Sure,
so
sure.
Take that off.
Okay,
your list.
We'll take it off. But let's say Hacks, let's say The Studio, right?
Sure.
These are like big concept about big themes and ideas comedies. And this is kind of what I was talking about when I said, like, could The Office exist in 2025? Like, I think that there are a lot of episodes of The Office that feel a lot like The Paper. They're not that different of a show. I think the quality level is pretty similar. But I think it's just that it's not like a must watch. There's not like a FOMO factor of like, oh, I didn't watch The Paper, so I won't be able to talk about it with people.
Yes.
And I do wonder if part of that has to do with A, the fact that other comedies have these like Emmy-winning big ideas, and B, this was released in a binge-friendly format all at once.
I think was a bad idea because when you drop stuff now, it's truly a flash in the pan. Even if it's like overall collectively like, you know, good, it's a flash in the pan. It's just the way that people consume media now. It's like a sudden blitz. Like people, you know, it's September or it's October and like think of all the albums that have come out this year. Sabrina Carpenter's album, Lorde put out an album, Katy Perry put out an album. Was this year or was that last year? I can't remember.
I honestly truly could not tell you.
Kesha put out an album.
That's true. Yeah.
Like when The Office was airing, if any of those people or people of their ilk in that time put out an album, like we would have been talking about it for a long time. And when you put something out quickly, like a TV show, and you dump everything at once, people like fall off. I think there's like fatigue for binging stuff now. And when people tend to binge stuff, it's usually stuff that they've seen before and they're comfort watching. I don't think people are trying to consume media in a binge format any longer. So I think it was kind of short-sighted for Peacock to do that, especially when Peacock is like just compared to a lot of other streamers not doing as hot. And would have been a good way to get people returning to the app often if they had released it like every Thursday night. Like go back to the old classics like NBC Thursday night comedies. Like that was like must-see television. The Office, Will and Grace, Parks and Recreation, Friends. I mean like Seinfeld. If you go back and like it's like 20 years of network television dominance, doing like a block of comedy shows like on a certain night of the week was how they got people to watch their program. I just feel like this show would have been better suited for that format.
Yeah, especially given that it's a very character-focused comedy show. I know that there is this kind of like political aspect of journalism. Good, like cool, that's all great. But I think that what will keep people coming back is 100% the characters. And the slow burn of Jim and Pam in The Office is what kept people coming back week to week, even though they kept kind of like teasing it and edging people on and on for too many seasons, arguably. That's what kept people coming back. And I think that the binge format, it cheapens the show because to your point about the character Mare, played by Chelsea Frey, not sure how to pronounce her last name, I found her so endearing. I think that Pam Beesly in The Office, there have been some criticisms of her as a character in the early seasons, especially because she kind of is just like this somewhat of a damsel in distress that needs to be saved by Jim from her like horrible fiance. Mare is seems like a direct response to that character, right? She is Jim. She is like active in her pursuit of her romantic interest. She is like a bit of a boyish woman.
Yeah, she's a tomboy.
Yeah, she's a bit of a tomboy.
She's masculine.
I also think she's a little bit older than
and a veteran
Pam was in The Office. So like, again, we're laser targeting towards millennials here, right? This to me seems like it's directly targeted towards us. To me, her relationship with man who I will not say his name because I don't want to spoil anything, but like it is actually very effective to me. I left the season being like, damn, I want to know what happens here in the future.
That's so interesting because I don't, and I feel like we see where this one's going, and that's kind of what I mean about the format of this show is not groundbreaking in any way.
I guess I feel a little bit differently, and let me tell you why. So like I told you that in The Office, or we talked about how in The Office, Jim and Pam's relationship did not become consummated until very late in the show. And then once they got together, the show was like, we don't really know what to do with them. And thus, a lot of the more controversial aspects of the later seasons of The Office began. This show is not afraid to put their characters together, right? So let's get into spoilers now. So we'll put a spoiler warning here if you haven't watched the show. What's up, y'all? Editor Justin here. If you want to skip spoilers for the paper, you can hop on over to 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 40 seconds. All right, let's get back to the show.
Spoilers abound, F-slurs.
So Mare and Ned have some romantic tension in this show. And in the final episode, they kiss, and it's obvious that they have, like, romantic tension. And there's the obvious blowback from that, which is like, okay, Ned is Mare's boss. What happens next? To me, this show is aware of the expectations that people have from The Office and is very ready to subvert those expectations by making them happen faster than they did in The Office. And I think that's interesting, but I'd love to hear what you think about it.
I feel like I don't know. I'm like, didn't we already kind of do that with like Leslie and Ben in season 3 of Parks and Recreation into season 4? Like, I feel like we've seen this before. It was like one was in a position of power and the other one was reporting to them, even though it was a technicality. And it's like, okay, we can't do this because there's a power dynamic here and it's going to cause issues in the workplace. So then they secretly did it without letting people know. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like we've already seen this. I'm not interested in it because I'm like, I know where this is going. There's going to be at some point an issue where they're like, do we tell people or do we do this secretly?
I mean, are you 100% sure that they're going to end up together? Ned and Mare?
I don't know if they're going to end up together like at the end of the series, but they're obviously like, I don't know. I feel like it blew its load early. They got together faster than people might have anticipated, given something like The Office or Friends with like Rachel and Ross,
right?
Or Monica and Chandler, and certainly faster than like the Sam and Diane of Cheers. But I would actually have been more interested if they did something more in the vein of 30 Rock, where it was like, oh, everybody wanted to know if like Liz and Jack Donaghy were ever going to get together, and they made it like really clear, like season 2, that's never happening, and continued with it as like a running bit throughout the show. I would have preferred something like that because totally subvert my expectations rather than just making it happen sooner. Because now next season, when they inevitably break up for whatever reason, then it's going to be like, oh, we're doing fine, we're getting along, but it's still a little awkward. And like, I just feel like we've been there, done that with so many shows. Like, it reminds me of like, what was Mindy's character's name? I can't remember. Kelly.
Yeah.
When Kelly and Ryan got together and broke up like 5 times.
Which was funny. That was like a bit. Yeah. I think that, okay, your point of view is totally valid. And
thank you for validating me.
It could turn out in season 2 that it just ends up being a replay of Leslie and Ben. That could 100% be the case. But I wasn't sure, as far as like halfway through the first season of this show, that Ned and Mare would actually get together. Because, I mean, Ned is kind of embarrassing. You know, I was kind of like, Mare is too good for Ned in a lot of circumstances. And then also, the show presents this alternative couple between Detrick and Nicole.
Oh. Well.
Which I think is also, to me, an interesting one. I think actually Nicole is one of my favorite characters in the show. There's an episode, it's the same catfishing episode where she just like unleashes her rage against Esmeralda when she gets catfished in a way that I found really, really funny. And I think that Ramona Young, the actress who portrays Nicole, is like so funny. I think she was really great in the role.
Yeah.
But there's also this background romance that I think is consummated in like episode 2 or 3, like very early in the season, right? Another subversion of the whole like office slow burn of everything. So I wasn't 100% sure that Mare and Ned would end up together until maybe like a couple episodes before the finale.
Well, there was one part that I really didn't like of the show where, like, for whatever reason, just because she's like chaotic and evil and a hater, Esmeralda tells Ned that Mare is asexual.
Yes.
And so then Ned like brings it up to her and is like, sorry, I just want to be sensitive. Like, I know that this isn't like something for you. And she's like, why would you say that? And he's like, oh, because you're asexual. And then like she got like, I thought unreasonably angry about it, like to Ned instead of at Esmeralda for spreading a lie. And well, Geoff, I was like, this just feels like it's like, no, it just felt like it was like conflict for the sake of conflict. Like it wasn't how a real person would react.
I believed that, and it's because she was not angry at Esmeralda for telling the lie. She was mad at Ned for believing the lie because she's clearly interested in Ned. And she was like, am I not attractive? Like, have all of the things, like all of the signs that I like, the interest that I have been showing to you, like, are you an idiot? And the answer is yes, Ned is an idiot. And also, I thought it was fascinating because Esmeralda did actually pin something immediately, which is that there was chemistry between Ned and Mare.
Yeah.
And she immediately was like, let me undercut this. You know what I mean?
She wanted to sow conflict. Right.
It felt real to me.
It didn't feel real to me because I was like, okay, if you liked this guy and wanted to attract his attention, why would you be like, I'm mad at you for believing this thing that somebody told you? Like, why would he not? He's naive and doesn't like, and if you like this guy, you know that he's naive and like he's not going to question it if somebody says that. Do you know what I mean?
I understand what you're saying. I just felt
like this doesn't make sense for what the characters, how I would expect the characters to react. And when I'm already in a season of a show that I'm not loving and I'm trying to understand like what is the real draw in for me, which I agree with you in this case would be the characters because this is like a format we've seen.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't like it when the characters don't act in a way that I would think that they would act.
Yeah. I understand.
I already don't know them.
I guess I just like the entry into messiness that this show does. Like, I think it's similar with the relationship between Detrick and Nicole, where it's like, these people don't actually know what they want.
Yeah.
And it's a show that's more attuned to like the polite way of being in an office, right? Than The Office.
Oh, yeah. The Office was not interested in that kind of, those niceties at all.
Right. And I think Mare is the one character, ironically, who is like, actually, I'm just trying to be real and like talk about stuff. Ned is so concerned with being overly polite.
Yeah.
And this is like the core conflict between those two characters is that Mare was like, why would you believe Esmeralda despite all of the actual real life experience that you have gotten from me, like the obvious interest that I have expressed in you? And then Ned is like, I'm just trying to be a good boss and like believe what people tell me.
Yeah. She's like, why aren't you being a journalist? And it's like, well, because he's not.
Right.
He's not going to do his own research and all that.
Yeah.
He's just a naive dude who cares about being liked.
I think he does care about the idea of journalism in the abstract.
Yeah, exactly. But he is not the one who can do it.
Right. He's not the most suited, and she is. Absolutely. 100%. Which is an interesting dynamic between romantic partners, I think. And that's why I'm interested in what season 2 has to offer. And you know what? You're 100% right. It could go into territory we've seen before on different sitcoms. You're 100% right. But I think that the fact that they renewed it for a second season is like a good sign that they have some faith in this show.
Yeah, I'm also, okay, this is interesting too. I kind of like the little tie-ins that they did with Oscar to The Office to like, so that we know that these are like in the same universe.
Some of the funnier moments for sure.
However, I'm like, can we have more about Oscar that's not just about like, oh, by the way, I worked at Dunder Mifflin.
I liked his character in this show, The Paper. I think he's a bigger character in The Paper than he was in The Office.
Yeah.
In The Office, he was usually a one-note, like, one line per episode that was funny type character. Here, I really enjoy that they give him more comedic work to do. This is something that's a bigger thing about the show as a whole compared to The Office as well, is that they are more willing to add like metatextual commentary into the show. Like when the editors of the fictional documentary put in like, actually Oscar signed a contract that had no end date. You know, like these are gags that I think would never have been done in The Office and are pretty funny, like some of the funnier things. And then in terms of a character side, I like that Oscar can't help but be drawn in by the drama of being a part of the documentary, even though like his human brain is like, you probably should not do this again.
Yeah. It's like self-preserve.
Right. That feels very real to me. And he also can't help but he really would love to be an art critic, which he was always a part of his character from The Office.
Yes, he likes the finer things in life.
Exactly. And I think it's really cool that this is almost like a completion of his arc from The Office, that he becomes the art critic for the Truth Teller.
Yeah. So
I did like that about it. Some of the lines that he gives that are like kind of low-hanging fruit fan service for The Office, I think, were not as effective, like the you miss 100% of the shots you don't take line that he repeats in the finale. Those are a little bit more cheesy, and I didn't like that as much.
Very cheesy.
Given that it could have been
like
much
white
worse,
cheddar.
Overall, I'm okay with his participation in the show. I think it was pretty funny.
Participation. Remember Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Sure.
Okay. Wait, I had another thing I wanted to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite episode. Can you guess what it is?
For me, it was the Wirecutter episode. Was that the one that you liked?
Okay, I did like that one.
Okay.
I'll give you one more guess.
If it's not the catfishing one, which I feel like you would have already mentioned, I don't know what it is. So what is it?
Well, actually, now let me see if I remember which one it was correctly. Hold on. Yes, journalism. That is the one with
that's the Wirecutter episode.
Wirecutter.
Yeah.
Yes. I liked it because this whole episode started with them needing to look into these products because some of them weren't doing what they said they were.
Yeah.
Including the flushable wipes that created a fatberg.
Oh, Justin. My God. How did I not bring this up? Oh, man.
We've got to eliminate the fatbergs. And so for that reason, episode
Jeff,
6.
You're thinking about episode 8, Church and State, which is a different episode.
Oh, damn it. Oh, wait, yes, that's when Mare is like not showering and she's like at the office.
That's the cold open, is that she's at the office.
Yes, okay. Well, fuck.
And then also the company that owns the Toledo Truth Teller also is the owner of toilet paper brand Softies, who has a new product.
That's what
which is called like Dude Gloves or something. It's like obviously a parody of Dude Wipes.
Yes.
And it's basically like a mitten or a glove shaped toilet paper thing.
Yeah. It's so crazy.
This is a masterwork of comedy for me. I thought it was very funny.
Not so far from the truth. Yeah.
Exactly. And it turns out that they're the reason for the clogs in Toledo. There's like been multiple water main breaks, and it's all because of clogs.
Yep.
As a result of the dude gloves or whatever they're calling them.
The non-flushable wipes. Anyways, I love that fatbergs are heavily featured. I wish that they had used the term because they're very important. That everybody knows about it.
It was that was a great example of what I was talking about when it came to like journalistic integrity and stuff like that. I'm like, I wonder how an actual journalist would respond to this episode. Like for me, I found it funny, but there were some ethical boundaries that were crossed in that episode that I'm like, I don't know if real journalists would find this okay.
Well, sure.
But it is a comedy.
It is a comedy.
I think my two favorites are the catfish episode.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
If Sabrina Impacciatore has a nomination for the Emmys, I think that's her obvious choice. I think she's really, really, really funny in that episode. I also think it shows that this show is pretty smart, and as the audience realizes that Esmeralda is a victim of the catfish, the show knows that you are realizing that and has her escaping from the meeting to her own office to like deal with the damage. I also love the Lost references and the Josh Holloway cameos in that episode. It's really funny. One other last thought that I have about the show is that The Office and shows in general back during that time had a lot more time for writers to kind of mess around with the characters, to kind of find the happy medium where people would find them palatable and also funny.
Yeah.
And in a 10 episode season where they're all being released in a binge format, it feels like the writers just have way less room for error when it comes to dialing in these characters. the length of seasons back when The Office was first airing gave writers more room to experiment with characters.
Yeah.
And like you could have one-off episodes where people do weird shit and then you kind of forget about it like 2 seasons later, you know, because seasons were like 23 episodes long.
Yep.
And here it's like, it feels like the writers really have to dial in these characters so much faster, which goes back again to my question of like, could The Office really exist in 2025?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you're definitely right, though. I do think that 10 feels fast for a comedy. Like, there's a reason that half-hour comedies had 22, 23, 24 episodes a season.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this show could benefit from additional episodes per season. Like, give me a chance to really know these people.
Yeah, let's not forget that The Office had a first season that was pretty mid in terms of its critical reception and its commercial success. I wonder if that's why the second season was ordered so quickly.
Sure. There's a lot of first seasons of great TV shows that aren't great. Like Parks and Recreation's another one. 30 Rock, I feel like it took until like the 9th episode of season 1 for it to like really find its footing.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do a half-hour comedy, especially like the pilot, but then even the first season to like get you to care about these characters and get invested in their dynamics. It's tough to do.
Yeah.
But I do think that longer format in terms of number of episodes would be helpful for the paper. You hear that, Peacock?
And more importantly, I really think week-to-week episodes would be like a huge benefit
100%.
for this type of show. Because like the relationship between Mare and Ned, if you binge it in 2 days like I did, it's kind of like okay, that happened, as opposed to you're seeing the chemistry develop.
Talk about millennial core shit. Okay, that happened. We did a thing.
I just think the delivery system is much better if you just dole it out over time. And the paper did not do that. It was actually a last-second decision from what I understand. And it's because of the way that people are binging The Office right now on Peacock. But I do think that, like,
foolishness.
Getting somebody to watch a new TV show that is an unknown quantity is like a totally different mission than getting somebody to watch an old TV show that is a known quantity that everybody knows about and you've probably watched before.
Yeah, it's comfort watching.
So, Geoff, any last thoughts about the paper before we break?
No. I'm interested to see season 2, but I'm not totally bought in.
Yeah, I'm not ready to throw my entire weight behind this show as like everyone has to watch this. I don't think anybody has to watch this, but I do find it really fascinating as like an experiment in the realm of comedy in the year of our Lord 2025, where like everything is going to shit. And like, could a normal sitcom exist in this climate?
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting. And I think if you like The Office, I think you will like this show. But is it worth spending the 5-ish hours to watch it? That depends on your schedule, I feel like.
Heavily schedule dependent choice.
All right, let's take a quick break and then we'll be right back with our What's Goods. We're back. Jinx.
Remember that show about the dinosaurs from the Natural Museum of History who come to life in the 90s?
This has to be at least the second time we've talked about it on the show. But a banger. I have a lot of weird, like, that was like right around the time that I became conscious.
What about that movie that also took place in New York about like the fairies that lived in Central Park?
I don't know
What's
that one.
What's that called? That wasn't Fern Gully, was it?
That was Australia, I thought.
I can't remember. Australia? Perhaps my cousin knows about it. All right, well, Justin, we talked about the paper.
We did.
We talked about the passing of 2 greats, Diane Keaton and D'Angelo.
Mm-hmm.
We've also discussed Rachel Sennott and her upcoming television show,
Love
I Love LA.
Yeah.
We talked about Charli. We talked about the ill-fated Yellowjackets and A Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
That's true.
And now it's the time of the episode where we talk about something that we are particularly enjoying. A little section named after a question that I often like to ask you. And that question and section are, what's good?
Well, Geoff, I mentioned that I would be talking about the Pitt today. I have finally gotten around to watching this Emmy-winning television show. It's currently streaming on HBO. came out earlier this year. I have a lot more time on my hands, so I've been catching up on some television. I watched all of the...
Why's that?
Who's to say, you know? Who's really to say? I watched all of The Paper. I watched this show, The Pitt. I also watched more of Alien Earth, so I'm catching up on my television backlist. Let's talk about The Pitt, though.
Let's talk about it.
So this obviously won the Emmy for Best Drama. Noah Wyle won Best Actor in a Drama. Catherine Lanasa won Best Supporting Actress, I believe, in a drama.
Correct.
The show's really good. And I think it's really interesting to talk about it in comparison to The Paper, because this is also kind of a throwback, right? This is a throwback to medical procedurals like ER. In fact, this show began in concept as a sequel to ER featuring the doctor played by Noah Wyle.
Right.
And they couldn't get the rights from the Crichton estate. And they ended up making their own kind of separate, distinct show, The Pitt, which is set in Pittsburgh. It stars Noah Wyle as Dr. Robbie. And it is kind of like 24 mashed up with ER, where each episode is an hour of like one hellish 15-hour shift. A couple of quick comparisons to The Paper, since we just talked about that. 15 episodes, longer than The Paper.
I like 15.
A weekly episode drop format, also different from The Paper.
I like that.
So I think that these are like maybe the two most important differences between those two shows, and The Pitt's success. Hopefully Peacock is listening to that and they're like, wait, what if we doled these out once a week?
What a concept.
Because people are watching it for like a long period of time, 15 episodes. That's like multiple months worth of episodes if you dole them out once a week. And I feel like the cultural lifespan of The Pitt has been significantly longer than The Paper for that reason. Yeah, so quick shout out to a couple of really great performances. Catherine Lanasa, who won the Emmy, she plays charge nurse Dana Evans, and she does an incredible job, like such a charismatic performance. This is like the protagonist we're rooting for throughout all of the episodes of the show. And I also have to shout out Samantha Sloyan, I hope is how you pronounce her last name. She is a character actor who has been in a lot of things, but I know her best from being in the Mike Flanagan show Midnight Mass on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
She plays a grieving mother in this show, and she's so good. I think she's a really underrated actor, and people should hire her more. It is what you think it is, right? It's ER, doled out over 15 hours. I'm just like constantly impressed by the acting performances of people like Noah Wyle and Catherine Lanasa, and B, how the showrunners and writers have juggled the multiple like storylines that are kind of going on through these 15 episodes. Because I think this is what really distinguishes it from ER. Because in ER, you would have like one storyline per episode. Because of like the bingeability of The Pitt, they have some storylines that are like, okay, just this one episode, we're going to have this one patient come in. Mm-hmm. Or they'll have episodes that last like half the season. Or just 2 or 3 episodes, you know? So it's like really just an impressive logistical feat that they were able to juggle all of these storylines in a way that was totally approachable and understandable and legible for an audience that's just like watching it casually. So yeah, it's a really great show. I think it also speaks to another common theme that it shares with The Paper, which is like the degradation of our institutions in the United States. It's not afraid to talk about how the safety nets that used to prop up things like emergency rooms and hospitals have become so brittle that now a lot of the burden lies on individuals.
Yeah.
Individuals who are like truly passionate about what they do and know the import of what they do. And I think that's why medical professionals find The Pitt so real and find it so validating, is because it shows these people who are like literally putting their lives on the line. You know, there are people who get punched in the face by patients because they've been waiting in the waiting room for so long. Any emergency room nurse or doctor could tell you a story like that, you know? Mm-hmm. It really portrays the ways that our government and institutions have failed us here in the US when it comes to the medical profession. And I think that The Paper is trying to do a similar thing, although it's a comedy, so it can't be quite as bleak and dark. But yeah, I'm finding The Pitt, it's hard not to keep watching it because they're just throwing things at you constantly. There's always a storyline, there's always a new patient coming in. That's the reality of the ER, and that is what makes The Pitt so compulsively watchable.
That's how it be, baby.
I highly recommend it. Definitely watch it if you somehow haven't watched it by now.
I have not. I am interested, but it sounds like you didn't finish it just yet.
That's right. Brandy and I are about 10 episodes in, so we still have 5 episodes left. And listen, this This shift is already a hell shift for Dr. Robbie, so I can't even imagine where this goes from here.
Yeah, no kidding.
There's all kinds of shit. I mean, it tackles pretty much every social issue you can imagine in America today, to be honest with you.
That sounds heavy.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy.
But it also sounds great.
Very compelling. So, Geoff,
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear what you've been vibing with. What is good with you this week?
Well, Justin, I'm going to do a little plug, and then I'm going to get into my what's good. And my plug is, I would love for everybody who's listening today to please go on to Netflix and watch Victoria Beckham's new docuseries called Victoria Beckham, because I'm going to talk about it next week, because I love Vicky Beck's Posh, OG fave of the pod, Spice Girl.
A Spice Girls member.
She just dropped this mini or docuseries on Netflix, and I'm really interested to see what other people think of it. I'm going to watch it, so I would love for us to discuss in our parasocial way in real time next episode, next week. So that's my little plug for that. That will be my what's good for next week. But something that I really have been loving the last month and a half or so is a mini series on HBO called Task. So Task is created by Brad Inglesby, who famously created, directed, executive produced HBO's mini series landmark Mayor of Easttown in 2021.
Such a banger.
Such a banger of a show. I've got to tell you, he done it again, because Task is so fucking good. The performances in the show by child actors, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't usually like kids too much, and you know that. But these child actors are just phenomenally talented. So fucking grounded, so lived in. I cried many times during this series. The adult actors, of course, are nothing to shake a leg at either. Mark Ruffalo gives an incredible performance in this television show. If he doesn't win the Emmy for best, lead actor in a miniseries, I will be absolutely floored.
I've seen a lot of calls for his Emmy already, which is really early, but apparently deserved.
100%. I think, but I really, really think it was just so fucking good. There are some other actors in here who were great that I love to see doing good stuff. Tom, I think you say his last name, Pelphrey, Pelphrey, Tom Pelphrey. He was in Ozark. He played actually kind of a similar character in that show to the character that he plays in this one. But he basically plays a struggling father, single father, who's trying to provide for his family and provide a better life. Thuso Medubu, I'm not sure how to say her name, but she is great. Thuso Medu, Mbedu. I think that she is Ghanaian. Raul Castillo, who I fucking love from HBO's Looking back in the day.
Looking mentioned.
Ugh, I loved Looking. I'm so sad about how everything went down with that show. He was great. And then Fabian Frankel, who we know...
House of the Dragon.
From House of the Dragon, exactly.
Famously, Ye Old Fuckboy.
Ye Old Fuckboy. Yeah, he was so good. He played an Italian character, Anthony Grasso. He was so good, so believable. There's lots of great people in this show. Sam Keeley. Needless to say, the cast of the show is incredible. It was filmed where Brad Inglesby seems to base a lot of his shows, in the Delaware County or Chester County areas of Pennsylvania, which are the suburbs outside of Philly. Of course, home to the Delco accent, which I gotta tell you, I'm always fascinated by accents.
You do love accents, yeah.
I really do. And I especially really got into the Delco accent, and I'm like, where does this sort of rhotic parlance come from, and why did it stick in Philadelphia and it didn't in other cities founded by the English, Boston, for example. So I just went down a huge rabbit hole of sociolinguistics on TikTok, and then again on Wikipedia. I've been learning a lot.
So Geoff coded.
So Geoff coded. I've been learning a lot about accents and the way that English has like really had the rhotic and the non-rhotic split. Rhotic means that you don't drop the R in your language.
Okay.
So like, up here in Connecticut, like we say a lot of things without the R in it.
Yeah. Not quite as much as Boston. Yeah.
Not as much as Boston, but our particular parlance, like in coastal Connecticut, is very similar to the Midwest. And very dissimilar from northern New England, like Boston and areas inland.
Maine, yeah.
And very different than the New York accent as well, which is it's funny because they're such geographically close areas, but the split is wild. It has a lot to do with like education levels and the different migratory patterns of settlers. It's very fascinating. Anyway, I've gone on a tangent yet again, but Task was incredible. It was, I think, 8 episodes. I finished the last one last night. Finale, perfect. You know what I always tell you, I love a story that takes place in a short amount of time. And this show does exactly that. Every episode is packed with information, action. The setting of the show is beautiful. That area of Pennsylvania is very beautiful. Lots of hills, lots of ravines, lots of creeks everywhere. Also, it's interesting because it's like part of the Rust Belt, which people don't really think of like southeastern Pennsylvania being a part of that. They definitely think like Western, like Pittsburgh, but like that is certainly part of the economically disenfranchised part of the United States that people don't really talk about, and not a lot happens there and people don't pay attention to it. But there are really fascinating dynamics going on there, talking about the cartel, talking about old white supremacist gangs and biker gangs, talking about all kinds of drug issues happening in those communities where there's not a lot going on. People turn to drugs to escape and also as a form of commerce. So really interesting setting, done very well, beautiful cinematography. The soundtrack was very calming, which was so needed for the show, which I found to be very anxiety inducing. But really enjoyed it. And we don't love shows that glorify police. And I would say that this show does a great job of not glorifying police.
So you're saying not propaganda?
It's not propaganda. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think it's actually a really damning kind of takedown of a lot of the culture that surrounds propaganda. So really enjoyed it. Emmy for Mark Ruffalo.
Where can we watch this?
And well, just where all the good things are, Justin, on HBO Max.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother. HBO's so back. Okay, Geoff, I have 2 comments.
Okay, tell me.
First, who would you rank better Delco accent, Mark Ruffalo, Kate Winslet?
Well, Kate Winslet hands down, but that's because Mark Ruffalo does not do a Delco accent because he's not from there in the show.
Interesting. Or Mark Ruffalo was like, I will not be doing that. Please write me from elsewhere.
I actually would like to see that. But I have to say Mark Ruffalo did a great non-rhotic Boston accent in the movie Spotlight.
Haven't seen it, although very acclaimed. Oh my God. Very acclaimed.
Justin, this is what you're going to do. I'm going to design a day for you during your temporary fun employment. You're going to wake up, take out your dogs, do your run or whatever it is, you active boy. Then you're going to come home. You're going to draw down the curtains and shades and you say, it's time to rot, bitch. You're going to start off watching Spotlight because you got to get the sads out of the way first.
Okay.
Also, have you seen Mystic River?
I have, but it was a really, really long time ago.
I would recommend watching Mystic River as well because those are 2 great Boston movies. And I think you'd enjoy those films. Say film.
Film.
I think you'd really like them. Then you're going to have yourself a little lunch. Then you're going to we're going to visit Miss Keaton. And we're going to watch The First Wives Club. And then we're going to watch Something's Gotta Give. Okay.
I have seen that one.
And actually, I would wait for Brandy to come home to watch Something's Gotta Give. I think she'd really enjoy watching it with you.
I'm sure.
And, well, I guess that's not really a full day, but...
I mean, that's 4 movies. That's like 8 hours.
Yeah, and then you have to do house chores. You got to clean the house. You got to do laundry. So work all that in. You'll figure it out. You're a smart guy.
It's a good day. It's a good day.
It's a good day in terms of media consumption. And then you got to start Task.
Yes.
You gotta start Task. Everybody stream Task. It was so good. I loved it. I laughed a few times, not that many. It wasn't that funny. There were some very funny moments, but I cried a lot and it felt good. It felt like a nice release.
Yeah, that was going to be my second comment, was Task has been on my list forever because I loved Mayor of Easttown. And I just think I love when a creator has such a sense of place about where they're from or like what they know a lot about. And it felt like Mayor of Easttown really had that. And it also feels like Task has that.
I love that too. I love specificity. And I also really love when it's like an honest portrayal that is not in itself a comedy, or at least it doesn't like have like a sense of shame about it.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of hate it when people do films about like, or movies or anything really about like where they grew up. And they're like, yeah, this place is a fucking shithole. Fuck that place. He does a great job, Brad Inglesby, of like depicting the place in its true sense of the form and just like making everything very real. And it's like, yeah, this is just the reality of the situation here. And this is how people live here. And it's not like, oh, look at these inbred dum-dums who like never got out of their small town. It's like everyone's just like doing their best. And this is just like the cultural setting of this place.
Yeah, totally agree.
Like that.
I love a hometown story that feels real. I mean, myself, I feel like I have a complex relationship with my hometown.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, exactly.
By show of hands, who does not?
Everyone does. Everyone does. And I love an accurate representation of that in media.
Me too. Yeah, this is great.
Well, Geoff, this has been a great episode. I'm glad we got to talk about the Pitt, Task, the Paper. It's been fun.
And we also got to talk about Rhodacy in English, which I also love.
I'm glad we got to give you that sidebar today.
Yeah.
I hope this really brightened your evening.
Justin, I have to say, ending on this high, it really did.
All right. Well, we'll be back next week with a very special Halloween episode. Until then.
Ooh, spooky Halloween.
Bye. This has been Bands with Geoff and Justin. Bands is created and produced by Jeff Taylor and Justin Benavidez. Graphic design by Jeff Taylor. Editing by me, Justin Benavidez. The theme music for Bands is the track Nebraska With You by Sam Day and is provided by No Copyright Sounds. Email us at bandspod@gmail.com with any questions, recommendations, or just to say hi. If you like the podcast, rate and review us on Apple or Spotify. And tell your friends. Bye.
Bye. It's like when you're halfway through a bad or like a mid wank and you're like, well, I made it this far. I got to keep going. You ever had that happen?
Not really. Also, let me grab Franklin and that way he stops barking.
Maybe cut that.
as is tradition. Sir. He knows. He like as soon as I get up to go, he goes,
he's so bad.
Who, me? I'm like, yes, you idiot.